And this is the Outlet Forum with my esteemed co-host Chris Camello. What up, Chris?
It's an early start, but not a sudden sale. The Lakers hoarding the deadlines yet again. It's not about Scooble to the Dodgers. It's not about Kawhi
Man,
with another backdoor deal that no one knew about. It's the freaking Lakers on sale again. Unbelievable. You want to talk about flipping a house in LA? How about flipping a whole organization, bro?
on sale, Chris. Like this is just how it is now, right? Like you just
Shameful.
buy something for 12 billion, have it for a year, and then flip it for another 2.5 B. Shout out to Mark Walter. Shout out to the Lakers. Shout out to Adam Aaronson of Philadelphia, who will be on the show in about 10, 15 minutes. We'll talk a little WNBA because there's a Bill Simmons clip that's circling around that I want to get into. And Russell Westbrook announces his retirement. We'll get into the legacy of the Brody and RIP Don Nelson in tonight's episode of the Outlet Forum. But Chris,
Yes, sir.
we got to start off first with that guy's franchise right there, man.
Man.
Bob Iger and Josh Kushner, not Jared Kushner, Josh.
Not to be confused. They're brothers.
Not to be confused.
Yeah.
Have reportedly acquired the Los Angeles Lakers from Mark Walter, who just bought it last year from Jeannie Buss, who sold the majority of her shares as well. So, Chris, I mean, I just got to ask you straight up, man. I heard somebody say the Lakers are getting flipped like an Airbnb this past year. What do you make of the sale, and what are the ripple effects that you think it's going to have? Because we've already heard from Jeannie on Twitter. We've already heard from Luka Doncic. We've already heard from Bob Iger. Bob Iger has also said, just really quick, Chris, before you go.
Good.
In relation to the agreement, the 5-year agreement that Jeannie Buss reportedly had or has, we don't know yet, or has, I should say, because Iger referenced it. He says his plan is to keep it in place. Now, he said that could change. We don't know what will change.
Yeah.
But, Chris, what do you make of this sale, and what is it going to do with the ripple effects, not only for the Lakers, but the rest of the league?
Well, I think everyone's team just went up in value. I think answering your last question first, did I see this coming? Absolutely not. I mean, we were excited that we were going to get the first full season, right, of Mark Walter actually being able to implement what he wanted to do. And we had seen some movement. We have seen sort of a clearing out of the scouting department from the old Buss regime. Joey and Jesse were no longer there. And now all of a sudden, overnight seemingly, now I know Ramona Shelburne said that this probably happened over the weekend, and now we're just finding out about it. And shout out to Momo for some really good reporting. But Chaz, I did not see this coming. And this also comes on the heels of Mark Walter being investigated for potential loan fraud from the SEC, from the FBI. So now you start to wonder, timing. Hold on, where's the Windhorse meme? Think about it like this. The timing of it is very, very auspicious as well. We're on the heels of the upcoming season. Like I said, his first full season as the unmitigated owner, where he has actually been able to plant how he wants to run this organization. And now all of a sudden he just says, see ya. Now, did he need the $2.5 billion liquid? Is that where this comes out to? There's speculation on the FBI thing. There was even, by the way, Daniel Starkland pointed this out. Walter had a stroke after the 2024 World Series. Did you know that, Chaz?
I did not.
So is there a health problem in there? Is he biting off more than he could chew? So there's all these little things. And to be honest, we don't know why he decided to do this. Why now? Is it a cash thing? Is this fraud thing serious? We just don't know. And it's really a shame because you think about the Lakers, one of the more stable franchises in all of professional sports for the better part of 45 years. And now we've had two different owners over the last 18 months, or three if you still count Jeannie, over the last 18 months, 20 months. I mean, that is crazy right there. And how about Luka? This is what, his fourth or fifth different owner now over the last couple of years, going from Cuban to Dumont to Jeannie Buss to Mark Walter to now Bob Iger and Josh Kushner. So it's really a crazy situation. But there's two questions that I have. What immediate changes? What are Iger and Kushner all about? Right? That's one question that I think is going to have to be answered over the next, several weeks, several months. And two, what does this mean? Not just for Jeannie. What does it mean for Rob Pelinka? What does it mean for the hires that Mark Walter made? What does it mean for the organization itself? So I really want to get those questions answered. Obviously, the one thing we do know is Jeannie is safe for now. So I got to imagine Pelinka is safe for now, but for how long? I think that's really going to be the big question.
All right. So Chris, a couple of notes that I have taken down, a few things. So this agreement is going to be in place, this 5-year agreement, unless something changes, right? Luke, who's had 4 different 2.5 years. He's had Cuban, then he's had the Adelson family, then he's had Jeannie Buss, Mark Walter, actually 5, if you include Bob Iger and Josh Kushner. Now, that's not official yet. The next meeting is scheduled for exactly 30 days from today, the next owners meeting, September 12th, where it potentially could be voted on since this is a new transaction. But the craziest part to me, Chris, is that this came together within 3 days. Now, there is something that I want to reference. In the story with the New York Post by Kobe Price, who I want to reference, very good writer, by the way, good reporter as well. He got Bob Iger on the phone, and Bob Iger, in the quote, stated that they were informed that Mark Walter might be motivated to sell. So they heard from somebody. Somebody told them in their evaluation in the expansion, right? They were
because they were going to bring a team to Vegas.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So they're negotiating about the expansion fees. Reportedly, it was supposed to start in about 6 to 8 billion. Obviously, it's climbed up to about 8 to 10 billion. Reportedly, from Ramona Shelburne, who actually broke the story last night or this morning. She said she found out late last night and didn't even believe it when she got the call from her first source. But then you find out, hey, this guy might be willing to sell. Now, initially in the report, it was, hey, they just gave him a call because if we're going to spend 10, 11 billion on an expansion franchise in Vegas, because you still have to build an arena in Vegas. It's not just the team.
True.
The big part about owning these franchises, kind of like with James Dolan with the Knicks, is that not only does he own the team, but he owns the arena that they play in, which is the MSG company, which also owns the Sphere out in Vegas and created it. So you just have all of these different perspectives. And for Josh Kushner, I knew I was going to do that at some point, Chris. For him,
that's one
to be in with Bob Iger because they're wives. Bob Iger's wife mentors Kushner's wife, reportedly. So they have a relationship. They've known each other over the years. Obviously, Bob Iger has been, over an 18-year span, spanning about 2 stints, I believe. Bob Iger has been the man at ESPN or at Disney that owns ESPN.
Right.
That's built up that brand. So it all makes sense. But the question is, why did Mark Walter sell? And it has to have something to do with the feds. It's the only thing that makes sense because it doesn't smell right. You don't spend $10 billion to flip it for 2 more. You don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't spend that amount of money to do a flip, right? It's something, and the reason why it happens so fast, right, is like, oh man, I need this. I need to go ahead and jump on this. Yes, I'll take it, and we'll figure out the rest later. Thank you. Sign the offer sheet. Here we go. $2.5 billion secured on top of the initial investment. Sorry, Buss family. I'm going to do what I can to keep the agreement that we had in place, but I can only do so much because the money talks at the end of the day. So shout out to Mark Walter. Shout out to Bob Iger. I mean,
and that's a net profit of $2.5 billion.
And shout out to whoever that little birdie was that gave that information from Mark Walter to Bob Iger or vice versa, whoever that middleman is, shout out to that broker because that's a major, major cog in the story. Last thing, Chris, on this, it doesn't feel right though.
Yeah.
Something doesn't smell right as to why, but also I don't know if it's going to be long term the best thing because Bob Iger's 75,
Yeah.
and Kushner's only 41 actually, so
For sure.
long term it might have ripple effects that we may not be able to see right now. So I do want to be on the record by saying that because that's my gut initial feeling when hearing about this and all that. But at the end of the day, the money's the money. And if the feds are on your ass and you can still make 2.5B to be liquid.
Mm-hmm. To kind of offset some of this stuff. I mean, yeah, it's very
Not
interesting.
Liquid in general, just more liquid.
And Chaez, okay. I want to provide one more piece of context on this. And this goes back, I think, about a year ago. There was talks that the Guggenheim Group, which Walter spearheads, right? I mean, he's part of that group that owns the Dodgers, would consider selling the Dodgers with all that deferred money sometime over the next 5 to 8 years before that bill is due for Ohtani and Snell and some of the other Dodger players that have all that deferred money. So they would try to pocket as much profit as they could before actually being held responsible for paying the rest of the balance of these players' salaries with the Dodgers. Now, that being said, all of the Dodger beat writers, as a sub point of this story today, have reiterated firmly that Walter does not plan to sell the Dodgers at this point, even though Bob Nightingale of USA Today said it's not exactly a hard no, but it looks like for now he's not going to be selling the Dodgers, just the Lakers. So, but we will see, Bob. We will see.
Time. And look, I'll say this. Every season for the last, after the bubble, has been like, hey, man, this might be one of the best seasons in a while. And it just keeps getting better and better in terms of the guys that are changing teams, the stuff that's happening with negotiations in the cap, everything like that. Speaking of players changing teams, we have a special guest to join the show tonight. Chris, take it away.
Absolutely. It is a great pleasure. On the heels of all this hoopla at LA, let's not forget Philly has been stealing most of the headlines Philly's got it going on over this offseason. And help us understand and break it all down, from the Philly Voice, Sixers beat writer Adam Aaronson. Adam Aaronson, excuse me. Adam, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Really appreciate it, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about, obviously on our end, but clearly you can't talk about the upcoming NBA season and not talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Sixers. You know how it is, Adam.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think how the last 2 years went here in Philly, where 2 years ago was one of the most miserable seasons I could remember any team having. Last year, this crazy up and down roller coaster ride. For all of that to turn into what it is now, where the Sixers are arguably the league's biggest national attraction. They're going to have, I would imagine, when the schedule comes out tomorrow, they're going to have the maximum 34 national televised games. It's just crazy that all of this has happened. That this whole situation turned into Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, and Joel Embiid is just hard to believe. Obviously, the talent on paper is incredible and speaks for itself. But just the fact that has all come to fruition over the last couple of months is really just, it's hard to fathom.
Absolutely, man. And so, with that being said, when did you get news that LeBron could possibly come to Philadelphia? I know there's always talk before he actually makes a move, but was this something that you might have seen on the screen or on the radar, I should say, before last season, perhaps when he opted in to that option with the Lakers?
No, honestly, I did not really consider it a real possibility until Rich Paul himself started talking about the idea of it. I've known for years about how close LeBron is with Tyrese Maxey. We've spoken with Tyrese many times over many years now, really over the last 6 years, about his relationship with LeBron, viewing LeBron like a big brother. Every basically once a year, LeBron has played here in Philly, and he has always raved about Tyrese. And it was very clear that it was genuine and that Tyrese was truly one of his favorite players in the league. And I think that was the driving force here. But beyond just knowing about that relationship from, you know, I think a lot of us on the Sixers beat have heard Tyrese talk about that, pretty openly for a long time. I did not see this coming for a while, and then once more and more rumors started to circulate, and once Rich Paul started to talk really glowingly about the idea, that's when it sort of became clear to me that, like, whoa, this is actually really an option that he's considering, which is just like so off my radar going into the summer. You're just thinking about, like, okay, could they get off of the Paul George contract? If
Yeah.
so, how? By the way, did not think that that was going to be getting Jalen Brown. And I was just
Man,
thinking about a lot of the smaller details of an offseason that did not include, well, could they sign the all-time leading scorer in the history of the league for the veterans minimum? It was not what I anticipated.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been a wild offseason because, like you said, not only did you guys get one of the best players in the league, I mean, a top 10 player, top 12 at worst, in Jalen Brown, you get LeBron at a discounted rate, which obviously upset Chaz and me because we were talking about taking just a little bit less, not that much less, but a little bit less, and maybe
Yeah.
the Lakers could have built around him years ago, but that's neither here nor there. The question I have, Adam, is about the roster construction. Obviously, if healthy, the starting five is going to be great. What concerns do you have as far as roster construction slash weaknesses of the team? Because to me, they look solid, and they got Dean Wade, Anthony Simons, KCP. You got Bona, Barlow, Justin Edwards. It's a solid roster. I don't see like, oh, they have a starting five and no bench, or they have no size or no point guard. What area though do you see though that maybe Chaz and I and other casual not Laker fans, but NBA fans may not see that concerns you coming into the 26-27 season?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think if you're looking at the depth chart, backup center is going to be what stands out to me, just because I think you can make a case that it'll work out with the Dembona. I think you can make a case it'll work out with Ariel Hukporti, but neither guy is a proven commodity. Neither guy, obviously, Hukporti technically is an NBA champion, but neither of those guys has been, a relied upon piece of a winning team in the NBA before, or at least winning at a high level. Bona played a good bit on a decent Sixers team last year. So I think if you're looking at the depth chart, it's that. Just holistically zooming out and looking at the roster, I think it's pretty reasonable to be concerned about the defense. The offense doesn't concern me as much. I don't really worry about the only being one ball thing that people like to talk about. The Sixers have a lot of guys who know how to put that ball in the basket, and I think that is better than not having guys who know how to do that. I think defensively, just it hinges on, as most things do around here and always have, and it's funny that with all these moves, it's still the case. It hinges on Joel Embiid. It hinges on his health, how he can move. He's slimmed down a ton this offseason from pictures that we've seen of him. That bodes well for his lateral movement. His overall mobility, I would say, has deteriorated a lot over the last couple of years as the injuries have piled up.
Right.
When he is, parked at the rim, he's still a great rim protector. He can still get vertical and alter shots and even block shots at the rim. We saw later in the season. But the Sixers were really nervous about letting him defend in space because he just didn't have enough quickness to keep up with anybody anymore. Can he be not necessarily an elite defender like he was in his prime, but can he just be generally a high level defensive player, a real defensive anchor for this team? If so, there are still some defensive concerns. Like, we all know LeBron James is going to turn 42. He's not going to be locked in on every defensive possession. The backcourt, both of those guys have some defensive ability, but it's a small backcourt. Jalen Brown, good on ball defender. I would say not a good off ball defender. Anthony Simons off the bench might be one of the worst defenders in the league. So, like, it's not like Joel upgrading his defensive mobility is going to solve all of these things at once, but it does set a pretty strong baseline for what they would be defensively, and so that to me is the main thing when you sort of again zoom out and look at this team as far as strengths and weaknesses. Just how are they going to get enough stops? That's the question that I'm asking. I think they have the personnel to do it, particularly if Embiid moves better than he was, especially early on last season. But as we all know, you never exactly know what you're going to get with Joel on that front.
And that's actually the thing that surprised me most when LeBron announced that he was going to the Sixers. It wasn't because of the roster. It was actually just from a pure basketball perspective, the best place for him to go in terms of the impact of a starting five on a roster. Kind of ironic that the Lakers roster would look pretty decent, in my
Yeah.
opinion, if he took the minimum and went there. But I do like the fact that he is teaming up with somebody like Jaylen Brown, like Tyrese Maxey. Rich Paul mentioned in that interview that you referenced on the Game Over podcast when he was going on the whiteboard that he liked Darius Garland just as much as Tyrese Maxey. So if Cleveland kept Darius Garland, then that would have been something that was considered. But
Interesting.
I say all of that to say I'm surprised that he hitched his wagon to Joel Embiid, but I do understand it. Reportedly, LeBron only spoke to one coach during the process. That was Nick Nurse. Why do you think Nick Nurse is the man to be able to pull all of this together potentially and bring home the championship for Philadelphia?
Well, first of all, I think it's worth noting that Nick Nurse, I'm not sure about the other coaches that were involved in this, but Nick Nurse is also represented by Clutch Sports. And I think that really played to the Sixers' benefit here, in addition to Tyrese. I think that's probably one of the more unheralded sort of subplots of this whole thing is that Clutch Sports probably feels like LeBron is in good hands in that respect. And Tyrese Maxey has experienced really significant year to year growth in 3 years under Nick Nurse, and I think Clutch Sports has recognized that, and I think that was part of what made them comfortable, with LeBron going there. And look, I will just say this: like clearly, it's not going to be easy for Nick Nurse. He has some things to figure out after what the last 3 years have been like for him in Philadelphia, with guys constantly going in and out. He's probably had something like in 3 years, probably something like 20 games of a fully healthy Sixers team total.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to complain about having too many cooks in the kitchen. I think he is going to be able to sleep better at night, knowing that on a night when Joel Embiid is out, the Sixers will still be able to start Maxey, Edgecombe, Brown, and LeBron. On a night when Embiid is out, they still can stagger, and have two high level offensive players on the court at every minute of a game. To me, that's going to be this team's superpower is when other teams have to take their best players off the court and play bench heavy lineups. Nick Nurse, the worst lineups he's going to play when this team is fully healthy are going to probably be Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe lineups or Jaylen Brown, VJ Edgecombe lineups.
Yeah.
Like those sound like very, 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 very good bench units to me.
Those
And
are.
that just speaks to the optionality you get when you have so many guys and of that caliber. And of course, there are questions about what it'll look like when all five of those guys are on the court at the same time. But
Mhm.
I think we all watch the NBA. You're not seeing like five-man subs in and out. You're seeing stars get staggered. You're
Mhm.
seeing one or two guys going in and out at a time. And I think what Nick Nurse is going to have at his disposal that other coaches don't is that for 48 minutes of a game, he's always going to have multiple high-level scorers out on the court.
And guys that can create for themselves. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And also, too, I think you have a lot of guys who are used to playing. Like KCP has won 2 championships. He knows how to play alongside stars, especially LeBron. Chaz and I watched that 2020 run. He was a significant part of it. And then 3 years later, part of Denver as well. Dean Wade showed the last couple of years how well he could play alongside great players, Anthony Simons as well. The question I have goes to what Jaylen Brown was talking about during his press conference was sacrifice, right? And we hear this a lot during pressers, and it's easy to talk about sacrificing during a press conference. It's easy to talk about that in August, Adam. But when you get into training camp, when you get into preseason and the regular season games, and now all of a sudden the ball gets rolled out and everything gets real, is everyone, and by the way, when I mean everyone, I mean LeBron, Embiid, and that young backcourt of Maxey and VJ who've been able to flourish over the last couple of years under Nurse. Are they truly ready to sacrifice? Because it's easy to say it in August, a little more difficult to put it in practice come October, November. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, you're right. It is a lot easier to say that now. I think any player in the NBA, whether they felt that way or not, would say that in a press conference in August. And you're right. We're going to see in October, and probably more importantly, we're going to see in April and May, and the Sixers hope in June. I look up and down the roster. I can see it. Like I look at. I'll start with Tyrese and Joel. Those guys have been through a lot of wars together. I mean, Joel has been through a lot of wars even before Tyrese was
That's true.
drafted back in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys, I think, are at the points in their careers where, first of all, they both established what they are as players. Tyrese, I think everybody would agree, given his age, could potentially continue leveling up. But those are guys that I think have not that much to prove as individual players, and are guys that if they win, they understand what that does for a player's legacy and resume. Like you look at, Karl Anthony Towns, for example, he's always been a guy who puts up awesome stats. And this past playoff run on the Knicks, he took fewer shots than ever, but what he did helped them win a championship, and he's going to be remembered forever as like the piece that sort of clicked into motion this Knicks title run that snapped a 53-year title drought. So I think those guys can sort of reflect on examples like that, and know that, like, frankly, they've had a lot of chances to do it as the top two guys or as two of three top guys on this team, and it hasn't happened. And they everybody knows this team still has not gotten to an Eastern Conference Finals. You look at LeBron. I mean, this is a guy who just took a veteran's minimum contract as arguably the best player in the history of the league. I think it's pretty clear that he did not come to the Sixers for money. He did not come to the Sixers for a lack of pressure. He could have gone to Cleveland or Miami, and it's not like there wouldn't have been pressure on him, but he has already won in both of those places. If he doesn't win, it's not like anybody there is going to resent him. And I'm not saying necessarily people in Philly will resent LeBron if they don't win, but everybody knows that it's not necessarily the friendliest market and fan base in the world if things don't go well. And LeBron has won a championship with every organization he's been a part of, and he's betting that he can make it 4 for 4 here with the Sixers. So he's not like he's smart enough of a basketball mind, obviously a much smarter one than me or any of us or almost anybody else that's ever lived, to know what he's going to need to do on this specific team. And I don't think he would have signed here if he was not prepared to sacrifice in terms of shot attempts and points per game and things of that nature. And I look at VJ Edgecombe as just a young 21-year-old who is as fierce of a competitor as you'll find at that age, who I think if they told VJ, we're going to win the championship if you don't take a single shot a game, I think he would do it. Like that's how much he cares about that stuff. He would do it, no questions asked. I am excited for the just because of the national attention that any LeBron team gets, for everyone to become accustomed to that side of VJ's mental makeup, because I think people are really going to adore the
Yeah.
way that he approaches the game, the tenacity that he plays with, the competitiveness that he has. And then the most interesting one to me is probably Jaylen Brown, who, when he was in trade rumors, it was all about, oh, Jaylen Brown's going to get his own team where he's not in Tatum's shadow and he can get his own shots. Now he might be the fourth most important player on his team. How does he handle that? I think ultimately the sting of Boston trading him to the Sixers for a price that everybody was so underwhelmed by probably has Jaylen Brown more motivated to win a championship outside of Boston and stick it to them than anything else. But again, these are all things that it's easy to say, on August 12th. And on, November 12th, the Sixers are going to be like 12 games into their season, and we're going to have a pretty good sense at that point how things are clicking. And then they're going to have another 70 games ahead of them entering the playoffs where they have to make this thing work. And everybody's going to have to be able to handle the bumps and bruises along the way. Because I think even the people who would be the most optimistic about the way this team looks and their potential as a championship contender would say that this is going to take some time to click. And everybody on board has to sort of understand that and be ready for the bumps along the way.
Right, because historically, LeBron teams win in year 2 of
It's true.
the time that he gets to the new team. Speaking of nationally televised games, I'd like to just add as well. I went to the Rising Stars game and got to see VJ for the first time. He was obviously the MVP of that game. And I turned and said at one point, I think he's going to be a 10-time All-Star at one point in this league, because I think just the makeup of shining above everybody the way that VJ did, obviously the way he performed in the playoffs as well as a rookie, spoke to that also. But speaking of primetime games, we've already known what the first 2 primetime games are for the 76ers, and that would be opening night in New York on ring night for the New York Knicks, the first ring night since 1973. And
Christmas
obviously
Day.
Christmas, you have the return of the King to LA. Out of those games for the 76ers, obviously LeBron is going to be pretty amped up coming back to LA. But for you guys as Philly fans, people that are on the beat, people that are within the organization that you know of, that are your contacts and sources, knowing that those two games have been announced already, which ones do you think that they're more anticipating at this point?
I think it's probably the Knicks game. First of all, they're the defending champions and they sort of earned that as the defending champions. But this is the team that has knocked the Sixers out of the playoffs the last two times the Sixers have been in it. And not just that, both times Knicks fans hijacked the Sixers arena. I mean, game
right.
4 of that sweep last year,
That was
it
embarrassing.
must have been it must have been more than 80% Knicks fans. It was nothing like I had ever seen in any NBA arena, let alone here, where obviously the fans are very prideful about the environment that they create and the way that they rally behind their guys. Obviously, I understand it in that when the Sixers were down 0-3 and looked completely lifeless and the Knicks were rolling, I wouldn't want to spend money on playoff tickets if I were a Sixers fan either. And New York is a short Amtrak away that I've taken that Amtrak many times back and forth. So I get how it comes to fruition, but it was really jarring. And I think, Tyrese Maxey got asked about it after the series ended last year. And Tyrese is he's very good at not saying anything that, he's not going to show his hand all that often when he's upset. And he was just like, man, it sucks. It sucks. And he just said, it sucks like 10 times in a row. And that was all he could muster. I know it eats at Joel too. I think, there are other guys on this team that are holdovers from last year, even VJ, who experienced that last year. I believe Tyrese and Joel were the only guys left that experienced it 3 years ago in that really crazy and awesome first round series that the Knicks won in 6 games. But I think that one is the one that they're going to be circling just because not only is it more of a measuring stick and that they're a much better team than the Lakers and they're the defending champs, but there's also, Joel would say it's not a rivalry yet because the Sixers haven't beaten the Knicks in any sort of playoff series or moment of consequence. But there's at least some history there. Yeah. And I think that matters in this.
Absolutely. And that history is going to be on display opening night. I mean, you want to talk about hitting people in the mouth on opening night. That game will do it. Adam, outstanding stuff, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tell our listeners and followers how they could follow your stuff.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. You can find me on Twitter at SixersAdam. On Blue Sky, Adam Aaronson, 2 A's in Aaronson. All my writing is at phillyvoice.com. I'll have tons of stuff tomorrow on the full Sixers schedule. Been writing about that a lot the last couple of days as these games trickle out. And then once the season starts, everything you could imagine from game recaps to features to notebooks to mailbags, everything you could ask for, I'm writing all of it.
He's going to be like a kid in a candy store over the next 7 months. So Adam, I appreciate the time. Good luck on the upcoming season, and if nothing else, enjoy it because you're never going to be short of any story ideas, my friend. From one writer to another, I get it.
Yeah, it's going to be better than, with all due respect to players like Gershon Yabusele and whatnot. It's going to be a little easier than a couple of years ago. It's like, oh, I guess I got to write another Gershon story. It's and I love Yabu to be. Yabu's wonderful, but it's not going to be lacking for content here in
this
Philly.
Guy's going from deli meat sandwiches to now caviar, surf and turf. That's what this is, Adam. So enjoy that.
It's going to be nuts. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Later.
Have a good one. The great Adam Aaronson, everybody. phillyvoice.com. Yeah, that was some good stuff. That was
great.
Chad. Yeah.
Great stuff. Stuff. Thank Adam for joining. Chris.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to be tapped into a lot of Sixers games this year, like anybody else.
Who won't? So. Yeah. By the way, I had a joke. You know how they said they kept it all in the, Clutch Sports family? It kind of reminded me of Sugar, Leroy's girlfriend from Next Friday. When she hugs Ice Cube, we could keep it all in the
Come on, baby.
Yeah. You even cuter than your baby pictures. But Rich Paul is kind of like Sugar. We could keep it all in the family. That's exactly what he did basically turning the Sixers into the Clutch family, right? Tyrese, LeBron, Nick Nurse, probably others,
Yeah.
KCP.
I forgot about the Nick Nurse clutch angle. I forgot
Yeah.
about that. So
because you never think about coaches represented by any sort of big time agent.
Had I known that, or had I been told that during the process before, I didn't say this, but I was going to mention it. When LeBron said the week before at Fanatics Fest, trust the process, when he really didn't mean to, I thought that meant I'm throwing you guys a bone that I'm not coming there, like just giving you but it turns out because it wasn't on purpose, that's why he ended up partly going there. So, Chris,
it's gonna be interesting.
Having to follow that up with what Adam said about the Sixer team just makes me think, like, what do you think about this upcoming season? Do you think that, I don't know, do you think that the Sixers could actually, I just want to ask the question before we get into our WNBA topic. Like, do you think the Sixers could actually do it?
I think this is the best chance that they've had in quite some time. I mean, and they've been teased a lot, right? When they brought in Jimmy Butler in 2019 and then 2 years later bring in James Harden, and they have had one heartbreak after another in the playoffs. They've had some disappointing finishes, throughout the years, either in the first or second round. And a lot of those also came at the expense, not just of the Knicks that he talked about in the last 2 years. Boston has knocked him out of the playoffs consistently the last several years. So this is their best position to at least get back to the finals. And by the way, the East we mentioned this, Chaez, East isn't really dropping off this year. Detroit may take a bit of a step back. New York is going to be really good. I think Boston's still going to be very competitive if they're healthy. Indiana's going to be in the mix. Orlando, Miami, even Charlotte, who knows about Washington, Atlanta. A lot of teams are just going to be good. So the reason why I say all of that, and let's not forget about Toronto or Cleveland. The reason I say all of that is every night, it's not just going to be them dominating a weaker conference. It's going to be them being pushed by a deep and strong conference in the East. So, and they're going to have a target on their back. So there's a lot to sort out there. I still think, all things considered, they'll probably win somewhere around 55 games, I think. So I don't know where that's going to land in the East as far as the rankings, but
53 is the number for me. If they win anything less than 50 with that roster and nobody missing more than 20 games of injury due to injury, they should win at least 53 games, even without the bench even though they got Anthony Simons and all that. It's like they're not super deep. So,
that's true.
Chris, we don't talk as much WNBA as we should, but we are going to talk about the reason why we don't in just a bit. Bill Simmons has done us a favor and has called out one of many, because their own players, the agents, endorsers, everybody has called out the WNBA commissioner, whose name is, by the way,
Kathy Engelbert.
Thank you. Bill Simmons had some choice words about her. Let's take a listen.
Nobody needs a commissioner more than the WNBA right now. The WNBA, which is for some reason turned into the Twitter For You page as a league, and meanwhile has all of these amazing stories going on. The league's fucking deep. The Olivia Miles keeping Minnesota straight the whole time. And now Collier's back. They're even odds to win the title. Asia's the best player in the league still. She shut down Caitlin the other night. Indiana's really fun to watch. New York, like the league's like legitimately fun to watch. And yet all anyone talks about is dumb shit. Anyone who participates in the shitty discourse about the league, like, I think that speaks more about them than the league. But what the league really needs is a commissioner. And I would personally bet anything that we will not have this commissioner next year. I've never seen a league more determined to not push fun stars and fun storylines and fun people. Like this Olivia Miles, like if this was the NBA, this would be all anyone talked about. Like, have you seen Olivia Miles? She's on tonight. Oh my God. Oh, I saw the commercial. And in WNBA, it's like, she's like an annoyance that she's just a good storyline. Like, push your fucking players. And then instead it's all this discourse stuff, and they're just stepping in bear traps left and right because they have no adults in charge of the league. Here's how stupid they are. Their finals are going to be on 2 different channels, depending on the game. How stupid and desperate for money do you have to be to agree to that? It's too bad, though, because the league, they by far have the best collection of players that I think they've had. And I don't know anybody who thinks they're well run. So they have to fix this, and I hope they do.
I don't agree with Bill Simmons a lot. I think he's a Boston ball washer, which, I mean, that's fine. You can call me an LA ball washer by that same respect. However, couldn't agree with him more. I think that was a fantastic. That was fantastic. I really have no pushback on that. And I want to hear your thoughts on it first, but I just wanted to give Billy tip of the cap. Well done. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. And we won't hold the Boston thing against you, Bill.
It's about time that a white guy that's prominently known in several spaces like Bill Simmons said what he said.
Yeah.
Because the discourse that's online, mostly about Caitlin Clark and the WNBA and Sophie Cunningham and all this different stuff that just really just speaks to racial undertones in this country, to me, in my opinion, based on where it comes from. Obviously, the source is basketball, but the undertones are racial. It's very nice to see a guy say that the way that he said it, with even the enunciation and the veracity, and even dropping a few F-bombs with it as well, because it's absolutely ridiculous at this point that the league is this good, is as good as it has probably ever been in terms of the depth of stars that they have and potential stars that are on their way to be stars that aren't stars yet because the league hasn't pushed them in the way that they probably should in terms of putting them on larger platforms, in terms of nationally televised games, and not having your finals on 2 different channels and people having to, watch the game at noon instead of prime time, when you're going up against, almost nothing, in terms of you don't play during the basketball season. Obviously, you're going up against, I think the finals is in September, right, Chris? So
yeah, usually September, late September, early October. Yeah,
you're going up against week 1 or week 2, but it's never played on a Sunday, right? Like sometimes.
Oh no, they do play their games on a Sunday,
but it never starts. It never starts like the finals never start. Like game 1 is never on the same day of week 2 or week 3 of the NFL season. It's always, like during the week or something like that. But Chris, all I'm saying is, the WNBA actually has more issues off the court than on the court. The on the court product for me was what the issue was for the league because they weren't deep enough. They've solved that. They've gotten Caitlin Clark to be able to be the rising tide that lifts all the boats, to get better lodging, to get better travel, to get better salaries, to get better endorsements.
Means to an end.
All of those things. But you have this clown, Kathy Engelberg, who's not the person that really needs to galvanize the troops to be able to lead in a certain direction and push the league in a certain direction, because it doesn't seem like they have a whole lot of adults in the room. Chris, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think you're right. And this isn't the first time I've heard someone complain about Kathy Engelberg. I mean, just for example, she had to consult with Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, on what to do about the Caitlin Clark, Alyssa Thomas brawl that broke out between the Mercury and the Fever earlier this season, right? And that to me shows this is not a woman who really has her finger on the pulse or is afraid to make a substantial decision, right? And then there was the work stoppage and how much, some of the players were going on podcasts and on TV and on radio shows talking about the problems where the ownership and the players were not together. So she was not a good galvanizer in bringing the two sides together. Eventually they got a deal. Great for them. No work stoppage. Everyone continues to get paid. That's great. But she has kind of just been at the center of this. And Kathy's been, I think, one of the longer tenured commissioners for a while now, but it just kind of feels like she has plateaued on on growing the league at this point. And I think the other part of that Bill has talked about is you are not doing enough to push the players, right? And we said this about Rob Manfred for a long time too, in the MLB commissioner. You're not doing enough to feature some of these guys as stars, the Mike Trouts, the Bryce Harpers, things like that. These leagues are run by stars. You have to get, and especially in a sport like women's basketball, which, Chaz, I got to be honest, I don't watch nearly as much, even though I covered the league for a number of years. I'll follow what's going on. You don't watch
as much as you should, Chris? Are you saying you don't watch as much as you should?
And I stand behind that, bro. And it's because of this that they have done a poor job. I know what's going on in the league. I'll watch a game here and there, but I'm not as enthralled with it as I am with the MLB, with the NBA, with the NFL. So your game has to be that much better, right, in promoting stars, because people have other options, not just in the sports field, but in the streaming field, in the social media field, where they live. There's a lot of stuff to do, right? Why should people take an hour and a half, 2 hours out of their day to watch your product? What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that the league has grown in talent. You mentioned Caitlin Clark. You could talk about Olivia Miles. Juju Watkins is on her way up. There's a lot more stars, young stars too, in this league, Paige Beckers, AZ Fudd, than there ever was, even in the years that I was covering it. It's grown significantly in a short time. But is it also growing for the wrong reasons too? And there's the political aspect of it. You have got to keep the focus on the product on the court so you could avoid those pitfalls off the court, you know? So hopefully that happens. Hopefully that happens. Yeah. I know you and I were talking offline about this, and it is a touchy subject because it's gotten toxic and political and racial unnecessarily over the last several weeks. But
it's good that a white guy, it doesn't have to be somebody like me saying that, right?
Yeah.
And getting, the heat that I would probably get or somebody else would probably get for saying that, like he does, especially because he's as prominent as he is and well-liked in different spaces. So shout out to Bill Simmons. We don't really give Celtics fans flowers on this show, but today, damn it, you get it, my man. See, that wasn't too political. I wasn't going to I was going to touch on a few things, but I think that went well. Now, Russell Westbrook, an absolute legend.
Yes, sir.
Has announced his retirement. Reportedly, the Kings and the Wizards were in on signing Russell Westbrook.
And I believe Miami was also considering him as well, pending on what LeBron did.
He went out on his own terms. Russell Westbrook did not want.
It's a hell of a video, by the way.
Yeah, hell of a video. He did a
shout out Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
The narrator. Yeah.
9-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA, whether first, second, or third team, 2017 MVP,
2-time scoring champ,
King, 2-time scoring champ, 18 seasons,
3-time
7 seasons, assist leader,
3 times.
Absolute legend, Chris.
Yeah.
What do you make of him, man? What's his?
So I hope everyone's going to. So it's funny. He played 18 seasons and to 18 holes of golf, Chaz. And even though I don't play golf, the front 9 of his career, I think, should supersede anything that happened to him in the back 9. After the MVP
front 9
season
of his career should supersede anything that happened in the back 9,
give or take, right? And I'm talking about the 2017 MVP. After that, it felt like that, people really cooled on Russ. There was more criticism. The awe of the triple-double became the eye roll of the stat hunter. That's what happened with Russ. Fair or unfair, that's what happened. He bounced around from team to team after having a lot of stability. What was it, 11 seasons, right, with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Moved on to the Houston Rockets, was traded out of there after 1 year, goes to the Washington Wizards, traded again, went to the Lakers. That didn't work out. The year with LeBron and Anthony Davis that we thought was going to be a championship year turned out to be a total bust. He tries to transition to 6-man role. That doesn't work. And then it just kind of bounced around. But the one thing Russ always had going for him, the intensity, the speed, the explosiveness, that pull-up jump shot was just a killer for the Lakers, especially early in his career. They never could really seem to guard him.
Man.
But the one thing you can't ever deny, he's one of the most complete point guards to ever play this game. He's one of the most intense competitors. And from everything that I've heard, one of the great teammates you could ever ask for from a star player. So yeah, he got into people's faces that weren't on his team. But if he was on your team, he had your back 100%. So yeah, it didn't end well, the career. He never won a championship. Played in one finals with the Thunder in 2012. Lost to LeBron's Miami Heat, but an outstanding career, and still goes out sort of still playing at a top tier level. There wasn't a ton of, outside of the shooting, Chaz, there really wasn't a ton of regression in his game. The speed and explosiveness never really wavered on him, which is pretty odd because that's normally something that goes for a player like this, but it didn't. So outstanding career, and we will see him 6 years from now in 2032 headed to Springfield as a first ballot Hall of Famer.
First ballot, baby. And it's going to be very, very cool because Russell Westbrook is exactly my age, right? So like,
yeah,
actually, no, he's a year older, but like
he's my age, I think.
To see somebody from our era, like from like literally our age, go into the Hall of Fame. Like Bron's a little bit older, obviously. Sure. SJ and those guys are younger. Mm-hmm. You know, Wemby's younger, Luka's younger. But to have somebody like Russell Westbrook, who's from here, who's from
Lusinger High School, played at UCLA, yeah, local legend, man, local.
Number one moment was after Nipsey Hussle passed, and Russell Westbrook went out and got against the Lakers at home. Went out and got 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 20 assists. The reason why that's significant is because add up all those equals 60. 60 is the Crip gang that Nipsey Hussle held from in Los Angeles. So,
Chaz, one more stat.
That kind of stat line is crazy.
I'm sorry to interrupt. That was great. Yeah, I forgot about the Nipsey Hussle connection. 25,000 points, 10,000 assists. One of two players to accomplish that in this modern era of the NBA. The other being LeBron James. So this guy did it all. Rebounding, assisting, scoring, leading. He did it all. Yeah, like I said, the last 3-4 years were a little ugly. It got bumpy with the Lakers. The Clipper tenure went well, but it didn't end well. Denver cut him loose after 1 year. Sacramento, whatever. There was even talks he was going to play in Israel, but this was the best thing for him. Retire, go out on top. You got more money than you know what to do with. You got your family. You got your causes. Go out there, continue to make an impact in the inner city and the other cities that you're involved with. And hopefully OKC, I think that would be appropriate to have them retire his number 0 jersey one day in the rafters at what is it, whatever they're called now, Paycom Center or whatever. I don't know if he'll get a statue, but he might.
He might. To close it out, Chris, let's go into a couple RIPs because this guy was an absolute legend. We lost one, a real one. Man, when Don Nelson said that he was smoking weed in Hawaii after retiring from the NBA, it was one of the funniest, greatest lines outside of Phil Jackson telling us that he was smoking peyote in Montana. Chris, RIP Don Nelson, a few words for the legend.
I would say the best word to describe him was innovative. You know, Chaz, you always point this out every time we do an RIP. You always say it's like another piece of our childhood that we grew up watching, you know, whether it be an actor, which we're going to talk about in a second, or a coach or a player or somebody and it hits a little bit differently. I grew up just like you did. Don Nelson rallied what was a crappy organization with the Dallas Mavericks, and he turned him into something. It started in 1998 when he acquired Steve Nash from the Phoenix Suns. Nash, a former lottery pick of the Suns. They gave up on him quick after they got Jason Kidd. He became expendable, brought him in. And at the same time, there was a tall, skinny kid out of Germany by the name of Dirk Nowitzki that he paired him with. And that became the foundation, along with Michael Finley, of course, of turning around that organization. And, shout out to Mark Cuban as well. He, bought the team, I think in 99 or 2000, and that, uprooted them even more. But it started with Nell. And I'm not saying he was a perfect coach, but the positionless basketball that he had, and then putting these guys in a position where not only can they be good, but great and successful. Everywhere he went, he had players that he just took to the next level, and including his last great gift to the Golden State Warriors. And he coached the Warriors in 2 different stints. People remember We Believe and all of that stuff, knocking out the Mavs in 2007, the first 8-1 knockoff in a 7-game series. But his last year was in the summer of 2009. He pushed the organization to draft a kid out of Davidson by the name of Steph Curry. He saw something with him. So not only was he a great coach and being able to put these guys in a position to be successful, he had an eye for talent. That is so rare. And there's a clip of when he became the winningest coach in NBA history in Minnesota, and Anthony Morrow and Steph Curry as a rookie, and everyone, Devin George, the former Laker, everyone's jumping on him. They loved him. They, with the mere exception of maybe Chris Webber early in his career. That was one of the things that Nell got wrong. But Run TMC, the We Believe Warriors, Steph Curry, the Mavericks with Dirk and Steve Nash, that was all Nelly. And you talk about the 7 seconds or less, the Mike D'Antoni, the modern way of how basketball is now played in the NBA. He is one of the innovators of that. He is one of the reasons why it is what it is. So shout out to Don Nelson, well-beloved, well-respected, well-revered. May he rest in peace. And thank you for everything you contributed to the game of basketball.
Absolutely. R.I.P. Don Nelson. And Chris, the Soprano actor that we lost, his name?
Vincent Pastore. Played Sal Big Pussy Bompensero for the first 2 seasons of The Sopranos. Outstanding actor. If you watched a mob movie, chances are this guy was in it. But they said he wasn't like any of the gangsters that he played. He had a big heart. He was fun. He was funny. He was fun-loving. He was kind. He was generous. He loved the arts and movies and everything. And it still breaks my heart how he got killed in season 2 of The Sopranos. But he was a rat. But him on that boat, looking at the 3 guys, Tony, Paulie, and Silvio, looking at them and saying, not in the face, okay? He knows what's coming. Give me that. Let me keep my eyes. And then Paulie, you were like a brother to me. And then Tony,
you were like a brother
to all of us. And then Puss says, yeah, like he had nothing else to say. And then he gets killed. But yeah, just a great actor.
Where did they shoot him, by the way? Where did they shoot him exactly?
They shot him in the chest. They shot him in the chest, and his eyes were like this, and then they dumped him in the ocean and stuff. So it was a sad way for him to end, that character to end. But yeah, he
knew he was about to get it, Chris.
Of course, yeah.
How did he know that he was about to get it? Because what's his name didn't know he was going to get it. He thought he was going to see the bosses, and he gets open.
You're talking Joe Pesci from Goodfellas. He thought he was going to become Made. Yeah. I think Puss deep down, not to mention they questioned him about how much he gave the FBI. So I think he knew what was coming. They drink together, all of that stuff. It was a very strange episode because throughout that episode, it's called Funhouse, season 2 of The Sopranos. Tony is really sick from food poisoning. He's having all these weird dreams, right? And one of the dreams that he keeps having is Pussy a rat, and he had that suspicion going back to season 1, and he has it throughout season 2 when Pussy kind of comes back and looking at him differently and everything, but he couldn't quite pinpoint it. And that's what happened. So, Vincent Pastore was an iconic actor. I thought he had a lot of charisma, and definitely missed him in The Sopranos. But he did a lot of other good projects after that too. A lot of comedies too. A lot of Italian comedies that he made. So yeah, shout out to him and to Don Nelson. We like to give shout outs to the people who've passed and pay our respects. So
absolutely, man. Well, another great episode of the Outlet Forum. Appreciate everybody who tapped into this episode. Pretty high number that we did in the summertime, Chris. I think this might have been our best show in the summer. Shout out to Sixer Adam Aaronson.
Yeah, Sixer Adam. That's his handle. You got it.
Yeah, I almost messed that up, I thought. And shout out to you guys for tapping in. We will see you guys next week because we will be gearing up. Maybe Kuminga signs for the Lakers. I don't know. I'm still holding out hope on
Maybe
PJ
a
Washington
little.
or Daniel Gafford or something.
Yeah,
like
those
that.
would be some good pickups for Lakers.
Maybe James Harden signs back to Cleveland.
That's
by
right.
next
Yeah,
week.
Harden's still out there. Shoot, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
shit. I mean, and then there's still
Bruce Brown is out there. Benedict
Bruce
Mathurin
Brown is out
hasn't
there.
signed. Peyton Watson. That's another ongoing thing too. There was some news, and then we still don't know what's going to come of the Kawhi situation, Chaz. We got to keep our eye on that. If they're going to come, which now it's apparently we need to make sure whoever we punish that they'll accept it. Come on, Adam.
Come on. I refuse to talk about that subject anymore until we find out some actual like news that Pablo Torre doesn't uncover.
What is it about punishments that is so, this is why we become soft. This is, people want to know, why are you guys so soft as Americans? Great question. Because we can't punish anymore. We're afraid of backlash.
It's money. It's money.
Yeah,
it's
but
money.
You know what? You break the rules. You think David Stern would hesitate to do anything on Steve Ballmer? Well, I don't know. Don't answer that. He probably would. It's all corrupt, brother. It's all about the money and the juice. There's a lot of juice.
Like I said, that money talks. So
yeah.
We'll see. Well, we'll see you guys next week on the Outlet Forum. Appreciate you guys tapping in. We'll see you later. Peace.